Hello and welcome everyone to our event. Thank you for joining us for this very inspiring, I'm going to say that ahead of time, very inspiring conversation we're going to have celebrating the strength and resilience of women in Toastmasters and beyond. My name is Brad Stoffer, and I am honored to be host and moderator for today's session. As I said, we have an incredible panel of 6 dynamic female leaders who will share their remarkable journeys, challenges, and triumphs. And we're going to hear stories that showcase the power of empathy, curiosity, and openness in leadership. I'm personally delighted to know these women and have gotten to know them more through their leadership journeys and personal journeys in life. And I just want to say, I believe we're going to have a really great and personally inspiring session today for you. So listen in. But before we dive in, here are a few housekeeping tips. As our room is filling up today, I am going to start and introduce our panelists. I will introduce them in alphabetical order so you can get to know them. Oh, and by the way, feel free to use reactions, your Zoom reactions, to welcome our panelists and throughout the session as well. Please join me in welcoming Raji Bandanapudi. She started her Toastmasters journey in 2018 and is currently serving as District 101 Director. Raji has a master's degree in electrical engineering and currently works as a low-power architecture engineer at NVIDIA. Passionate about meeting new people and learning from their experiences, Raji has mentored numerous members and clubs in Toastmasters and earned her Distinguished Toastmaster designation in 2021. Her involvement in multiple committees and leadership positions has allowed her to inspire others to step outside their comfort zones and embrace opportunities for growth. Please welcome Raji. Wendy Fan is a PhD chemist turned rocket scientist and is the current Club Growth Director in District 101 Toastmasters. A passionate advocate for STEM education, that's science, technology, and engineering and mathematics, Wendy is honing her communication and leadership skills to empower women to become STEM leaders. Here's a fun fact about Wendy. She is an avid cook as she loves to experiment with chemistry in the kitchen. Of course. She once studied bread making techniques to scour ideas on how to improve heat shield materials for spacecrafts. Please join me in welcoming Wendy. Joy Fung is an associate professor at Emory University School of Medicine, and she's the current program quality director of District 4 Toastmasters. Joy is an advocate for public speaking, especially those who belong to these 3 categories: a non-native English speaker, a STEM major, and an introvert. Her mission is to help the strong speaker and leader that's inside each one of us come out into the light. Joy's other hobbies include sports photography and succulent collection. Please welcome Joy Fung. Ana Garcia is the current Program Quality Director in District 101 Toastmasters. Last year, as Club Growth Director, she led initiatives that supported her district to achieve President's Distinguished Recognition. Ana is a passionate advocate for pet causes and is a champion of rehabilitation of orchids. Please welcome Ana Garcia. Nadine Hammer is a seasoned professional working at a large biotech company with a sharp eye for strategy, business development, and marketing. She is also Club Growth Director in District 4 Toastmasters. Nadine has played a pivotal role in driving growth and innovation at leading companies, always finding the right footholds in complex business landscapes. And speaking of footholds, when she's not tackling business challenges, you can find Nadine scaling actual rock walls. As an avid rock climber, Nadine knows about navigating tricky routes, both in the corporate world and on the cliffs. Please welcome Nadine Hammer. Roselia Villalobos is the current District Director of District 4 Toastmasters, and she's an advocate for reading and library accessibility. As someone who did not enjoy reading until she was older, Roselia now gifts books to many friends and family. And when she's not reading a book, Roselia can be found hiking, cell signal free, or knitting. Not together, I don't think. But yes, before YouTube was a thing, Roselia actually learned to knit from YouTube. Please welcome Roselia Villalobos. Let's give a big round of silent applause to all of our panelists. And even though we can't see you applauding, we're grateful that you are here. And again, feel free to use your reactions. And I see those reactions now. So let's start off with some big picture questions. We are going to tackle a few different categories today that I think you'll find interesting. And we're going to start off with some big picture questions here. As we all know, leadership often comes with challenges. What was one defining moment in your leadership journey? So here's the question. This is for all the panelists. What was one defining moment in your leadership journey that tested your resilience, and how did you overcome it? Let's start with Nadine.
Thank you so much, and welcome everybody to this panel. Feeling really honored to be on this panel today. When we talk about resilience, for me, what comes up immediately, I have 2 kids. It's small kids trying to learn to walk. They're falling, they're getting up, they're trying it again, and they're falling over and over and over again, right? And they're getting up over and over and over again. That's massive resilience. In my career, I was really working hard for this dream job, and I finally got it. I was so excited to finally getting this job that was so close to heart. And I signed up, and I immediately got assigned to a high-profile project. But then I realized after a couple of weeks in, you know what? This project lead actually doesn't want me. He doesn't want me to be here. come on, I've worked for so many years to land this job. I finally achieved what I always wanted. And now I find myself in this situation where someone doesn't want me. That really hit hard. And I guess in this moment, resilience really enabled me to navigate through this. Resilience enabled me to not freeze and do nothing. Resilience enabled me to take a moment, to have a meeting with myself, an honest conversation, and decide what is the next step that I should take. What is a way out of that? And it's not something that is important if everything is rosy, right? Resilience is needed in moments where you feel overwhelmed, where you feel stressed, where you are in moments of high stakes. Being able to move forward and staying dynamic, Brad, that's what resilience is for me.
Thank you, Nadine. Thank you for that. Let's go to Joy.
I believe the aha moment for me to understand the two skills I think I'm most deficient on, even after 23 years in school, is public speaking and leadership skills. And can you believe how excited I was when I learned these skills? Not you're born naturally, you can learn them. And there's so many courses I went to for my HR training, came back with these thick binders, talk about how to give a really succinct event presentation, how to talk to top dogs, or how to influence without authority. None of this worked. So in my mind, I said, I can never learn this. But I learned when this skills can be practiced and learned, can improve. That's really aha moment. Give me lots of hope. Back to you, Brett. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Let's go to Raji.
When I first joined Toastmasters in 2018, I was still a junior engineer in my team. And I was assigned to this big project to work cross organizations within my company. Being a junior engineer, I was lacking in some of the skills and knowledge regarding the project because I was still coming on board, ramping up, which made communication with some of the folks who were working on the project for a long time really, really hard. And often they used to disregard any inputs that I used to give regarding the progress of the project or some debug ideas and different things like that. And that, as somebody new onboarding, was very, very difficult and challenging. And I could not really escalate this matter as well because they were responding well to the other teammates who were much senior, much more involved in this project previously and things like that. I decided to put in more effort from myself to kind of ramp up at a much faster pace than I imagined and started to speak with data rather than just going in with information or suggestions saying, hey, this is my suggestion, this is the proof for it, and this is how it improves the situation on hand. Slowly and steadily, I started to get other people on board and taking me more seriously. This opportunity or this realization where I positioned myself differently, I regarded the situation not as a challenge, but as an opportunity to learn and grow, was in my head the aha moment for me to demonstrate leadership to a level which got noticed by seniors in the team. And I got promoted to being the whole project lead and lead the project to completion in the next 2.5 years that I was leading it. There are opportunities like this all of us face where we are hitting a wall consistently, but it is just that one moment where the switch flips in our head, where we take this not as a challenge, but as an opportunity to better present ourselves, whether it is in communication, the knowledge that we share, or the value that we bring on board. As a Toastmaster, there are a lot of times that I am butting heads with fellow teammates or other people because we are all volunteers here for our time. How do I inspire you to do that and not force you to do something is where I'm learning a lot of my resilience and getting better at it and taking it back to work as well as I work with cross-geo, cross-organization, and other teammates. So that's been my aha moment, to just position myself and change the way I think about the situation. Back to you, Brad.
Thank you, Raji. And Wendy, a defining moment that tested your resilience.
Thank you, Brad. It's an honor to be here to meet everyone and be on the panel. I think one of my earliest moments in the context of leadership was in October 2020. I was a newbie Toastmaster, and I became club officer just 3 months. It was thick in COVID, and like others, I was as a vice president of education, I was in charge of organizing meetings. And like all other clubs who went online, our attendance really dwindled. And nobody was answering my calls. So I thought to myself, if they don't care, why should I care? So I handed my resignation to my club president. Then I went for a walk. And I started to ask myself, sure, they don't care, but you're supposed to be the leader. Are you not responsible for their success? And at that moment, I decided I want to take ownership for the success, and I will give it one more try. So once I decided that the possibilities really opened up, I decided we should focus on pathway speeches and host workshops to provide tools to encourage the members. And my club president and the whole club joined me. So by next June, we achieved all 6 education goals, and our club became president distinguished. So taking ownership really is a magic thing. I learned that it is really key to solving every leadership challenge. And it was also responsible for my success in my professional work as well. So taking ownership, not giving up, and then teamwork. You are guaranteed to be successful. Thank you. Back to you, Brad.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for that. Now, Roselia.
Well, one of those aha moments, truly for me, and because we are Toastmasters, where we are trying to improve our public speaking and leadership skills, not trying to, we are improving. My aha moment came one of those days, corporate office. I was leading an initiative to implement a new system at work. And we knew there was going to be some pushback. Change is difficult for some people don't like it. And when you can already see the bugs here and there on the new system, you're like, why are we changing? This has bugs. But we must change, and new systems, with their bugs or not, get improved as time goes on. And we're here to provide what motivation to really embrace that new system. I was one of those people in charge. And I was asked to create, or not create, but provide a quote on the new system and why it was going to be great. That's excellent. I love this new system. I know the ins and outs of it already. Give my quote. The person who received my quote didn't like my quote and asked that I recreate the quote. They wanted a new one. Okay. I can do that. Redo my quote to the flair of Rosie, and they again did not like it. All right. Deep breaths. Let's try one more time. It gets pushed back to me again. I get frustrated, and at that time say, I cannot say anything nice that you're gonna like. Well, you can imagine the pushback afterwards, because I was one of the people leading the initiative for this change, and I can't say anything nice about the system. And at that moment in time, I realized I needed to communicate better. Not only communicate what I wanted to say about this system, but what I wanted to tell this other person that was rejecting all of my quotes. And so I actually ended up joining Toastmasters. That was the defining moment that I listened to my boss to join Toastmasters and improve my public speaking skills. Now, if I had to do this again, I would go back to my original quote, because my original quote, which I still have, was the bomb, and would have, by all means, shown everybody why the new system was great. So that was my defining moment of really public speaking, and being able to advocate for yourself is the way to grow and develop within your career, but also personal. Back to you, Brad.
Thank you, Roselia. And Anna.
Yes, thank you so much. I think the key piece, which Joy also touched upon, is that leadership is, you don't have to be born with leadership. You don't have to be a natural born leader. You can learn these skills along the way. And the beautiful thing is as a leader, you can pour love and you can pour support and you can pour your belief into people on your team until they themselves start to believe and achieve their own successes. And there's nothing more beautiful than being able to help a group of people, lock arms with them and achieve something great, some goals that you had set out for the team, some goals that you had set out. And it's a great way to cut your teeth here in the ability to do that at Toastmasters, because we're leading about 3,000 people in the district, you know, to be able to achieve their own personal goals as well as set those goals for the whole entire district. So you're clearing out roadblocks, you're pouring in belief, you're pouring in love. And I can't think of a better way to lead people than to be able to instill that belief in them. And that leads to the resilience, because if we're going to have a defeatist mentality or a negative mentality, then that's probably the biggest roadblock for people. So we clear that out and tell them, you can do it. I believe in you and we can do it together. I believe in us. That's really, really key to being a good leader.
Thank you, Anna. And thank you, all of our panelists. Love your answers and your passion. Now we're going to dig down on some specific topics, areas. We're going to talk a little bit more about resilience. We're going to look at empathy and connection, curiosity and growth, and the topic of women supporting women. And we're going to talk about authentic leadership. So stay tuned. And panelists, I look forward to your words of wisdom and what you have to share on these topics. So let's dig down on resilience and look at that a little more deeply based on your personal journey. And I'm going to go back to Roselia and then Anna with this. Please share a time when you, as a woman, had to be resilient, and how were you able to apply that in a situation? Roselia.
Well, thank you so much, Brad. When you work in the corporate world, in my case, financial institutions, you have to be resilient, not only within your client service part of your job, because we all are client services in the financial institution, but also internally, which is still client services. And resilience gets you a long way. It also helps you maybe keep a bit of your hair, but not always. Occasionally you have to pull in one or two. And the time that I really tested my resilience, but also helped me grow that resilience at the same time on how to deal with this, is when you're dealing with new coworkers, and as you're trying to teach them new material, you're trying to show them the ins and outs, and they come back to you and they're talking about, but that's not the way I've done it in the past, or that's not how my other company does this, and why don't we do this, and why don't we do that? And as you're trying to say, those are great ideas, we don't work over there any longer, so I can't comment on that place, or I've never worked in that company, I can't comment on how they do things. you have to be resilient on how you communicate to them the changes that they're going to see from one institution to the other, but also how you're going to communicate the training. And I've had to learn that you have to be resilient, but also admirable and flexible on how you teach somebody something new. Because if you're rigid, they become rigid and don't take the feedback that you're giving them and the information very kindly. And then you're having to repeat yourself. You're having to go back to the same thing over and over again. And that was one part that I learned quickly. Be resilient, but also be willing to change your tactic. And that'll help you in resilience. And having to train somebody who maybe is a little bit of pushback, isn't liking a few things about their new work environment that they weren't quite expecting from a previous work environment, and getting them to accommodate. Now, I'm not saying that always happens. A lot of times it goes very smoothly, but for those times when you have to take a deep breath, be resilient, and try a new tactic, resilience works a long way, and also finding new ways. And sometimes Toastmasters helps you because you can talk it over to somebody, get some feedback, and then decide, I didn't think about that. Let me try that in my next meeting with this person. And so Toastmasters really does help with that. But resilience goes a long way. It also goes a long way in finding new options in case you need them. Back to you, Brad.
Yep.
Thank you, Roselia. Yeah, I hear you naming resilience as also a change in one's approach, in patience, and in perspective. Thank you, Roselia. Anna, to you.
Yeah, I'm going to try to keep this short. I think resilience comes around when you're in a room and people are looking for leaders. And you may not know if you can be a leader, but you step into that leadership role and you bring your expertise, you bring your heart, and you bring your hard work to be able to solve a problem and get everybody back into moving in the right direction, whether that's, at your kid's school, at work, or in Toastmasters. It's a key piece, rolling up the sleeves and willing to be put in the hard work that it takes to achieve more together. So I think that is a huge impact, is to be able to recognize when you are called upon to be a leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Resilience and stepping in and stepping up. Thank you for that. Let's look at empathy and connection. And here's the question for that. How has leading with empathy strengthened and impacted your relationships? And I'd like to hear from Joy and then Raji.
I'll try to be quick. It's a very interesting question when you're asking about empathy, because that's, again, my weakest point, because as a biologist, I tend to look at things very black and white. And I tend to even record people when they speak, because you talk for 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So you're allotted for 1 minute. So I tend to do this thing, but I learned, so I'll phrase 2 things I learned. Basically, people told me everyone fights their own battle, be kind. Secondly is, when I have to decide to be right or to be kind, be kind. With that, I will not remind how every of our panelists speaking for how long, but back to you, Brett. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Joy. What stood out to me was be right or be kind. Very good. That's a good quote. Raji.
Like Joy mentioned, as an engineer, I also viewed the world black and white. If we needed to get something done, we just go ahead and ask for it and get it done. But Toastmasters is something that changed my perspective on it. When I saw people putting in their time, their volunteering time, doing something, being leaders, serving clubs and helping them out. And how did these people come on board? Because it was somebody who was willing to check in with them and ask them, hey, what are your goals? What is that you want to serve? Why do you want to serve? Uncovering somebody's beyond what you just see and deep diving a little bit on the surface to understand what one's goals are. And that is how they were able to be recruited as volunteers in the team and taking on all these volunteer roles, which are pretty intense in nature, but definitely a great learning opportunity. So I understood in leadership, it's not just about getting the task done, but it's also building that connection with the people that you work with, whether you're reporting to them or working with them one-off. And that is an approach I took back to work, applied it with people within the lab that I was working with, within all the different people I was interacting with, where I started checking in with them once in a while about how things were going. And that built a lot of deep connections, and also sometimes gave me a leeway to go ahead and ask for a favor more easily and get things moving faster than some of my teammates. So empathy is something that we really, really undervalue and think it's a waste of time, but I would say it actually adds to the efficiency. So like Joyce said, if you do have a choice to be right or be kind, always go with being kind. It always works out in your favor. Back to you, Brad.
Thank you, Raji. I'm taking lots of notes here. You know, I'm not an engineer or a biologist, but I was naturally a black and white thinker, and Toastmasters has changed that in me as well. So thank you for your answers, Joy and Raji. Let's talk about curiosity and growth. And I'm going to go to Nadine and Wendy with this question. What role has curiosity played in your journey? And how do you continue learning and evolving? Nadine.
Whoever selected the question did a great job, because I just had a conversation yesterday with my husband, and where we continuously check in with each other, and he called out curiosity as one of my strengths. And I have to say, curiosity really builds the story of my life. I wouldn't have signed up to be the growth director for district for if there wasn't no curiosity, right? So I was curious. I was curious to move out of Germany and to live somewhere else. That's why we moved to the US. I was curious to work for a bigger company because I always supported and served at smaller companies. And so I joined a huge biotech. So I feel curiosity is the driving force for me. It's the positivity, the positive energy. Going back to Anna, get rid of all these negative thoughts. Negative energy is wasted energy. Try to really double down on curiosity. And how do you do that? You have to go deep. That's my approach. Ask these deep questions. Ask them continuously. Seek new perspectives. Talk to people. What drives them? And that is the engine to keep this curiosity alive and evolving. Wendy, what is your thought on curiosity?
That's amazing, Nadine. Exactly. It's the heart is asking questions. I would have to reiterate because my answer is quite similar. I think curiosity takes many forms. From very early on, I cultivated a habit of excellence. I was always asking how I could do it better next time, what new ideas I could try to solve this challenge before giving up. That worked really well with my professional career as a scientist, because as you know, I'm a research chemist, evolved rocket scientist. So I create new materials for extreme environment on the rocket that you will not encounter anywhere on Earth. This includes 2000 Celsius degree on the heat shield or minus 200 Celsius on cryogenic pressure vessels. So there's really no proven path, sometimes even theories. I have to blaze my trail literally. I find, like Nadine said, being curious, asking questions, and that actually happened to be part of the scientific problem-solving framework which I was trained to do. So I find, being curious, asking questions, and following the scientific problem-solving framework, I have never felt any big challenges. And that works in all walks of life and applies to Toastmasters leadership too. And because of that, I enjoy and I thrive in the Toastmasters leadership journey because it makes the journey more fun and productive. Thank you for the excellent question. I love it.
Thank you, Nadine and Wendy. I'm hearing that curiosity can be a superpower. That's what I'm hearing. Let's talk about how women support women. Here's the question. Have you had, we'll talk about a pivotal moment, because I'm sure you've had a moment like this, where another woman's support has changed your life path. Let's go to Anna.
Brad, this is a great question. And I'm going to set the stage by saying that I grew up with 36 cousins, most of them male, and I have 6 brothers. I am now living in a house with my husband and 3 sons. So my life is surrounded by male energy, and I love it. And that also is part of the framework of why I'm, who I am, is because of the influence that I have around all the guys around me. But the pivotal woman was a woman who I met in my late teens. She was an attorney and she went to Harvard, got her degree, and she was able to model for me a different path than what I was being modeled at home, which is a strong woman at home. Your goal is to get married, to have children. And she's like, yes, you can do that. And you can also contribute to society. And this definitely piqued my curiosity because I thought, okay, there's a different life out there that I can achieve. Because I was born with hopes and dreams of my own. And I had an interest in STEM and I loved math and I loved school and I wanted to be able to do something more with that. So I am glad for the women in my life that can show me how to be a woman because I am again surrounded by male energy. And this one woman who showed me a different way and said, you can go for it. And so that's, and her name is Chrysantha Johnson. And I still am in contact with her today. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Great story. Joy, let's hear from you.
Okay, I want to start with a phrase I picked up somewhere, but I guarantee you is absolutely correct. This goes like this. There's a special place in hell for women who does not help another woman. So I do have someone led me toward today's path. That is actually my formal mentor that arranged by HR department in my prior company. We were matched together by some mysterious system, rhythmatic. So we do not know each other at all. We met, and I confess, I say, I feel I'm stuck in my career, and I don't feel there's a way up there. And she thought about it. She said, have you heard of Toastmasters? And I said, Toast what? So that's the beginning. That's beginning. But truly, I feel she opened the whole door for me because she let me see that all of us, we have this 2 things we believe many of us don't have. That is 2 wings in our back. One is leadership, one is public speaking. But all of us look up to see people who are really flying above that say, oh, so wonderful. I wish I would hear. Because they're naturally born with that, but we didn't know the hard work behind this. So gradually I can see my little wings before I cannot even feel them. But gradually they start to take out and start to flapping a little bit. And now I think it's like at least much more than I had before. So the idea is now we never compare our wing with your wing or Bill Gates' wing, but mine is definitely a lot more than before. So back to you, Brett. Yes, I do have a woman mentor in my career, helped me tremendously.
Thank you, Joy and Wendy.
Again, once again, yeah, my experience really parallels that of Anna and Joy. As you probably already know, one of the biggest focal moments on my life path was the moment when I said yes to serve as a club officer. Because up till then, I was an introverted scientist who focused on science, have zero interest in people. I was blunt, stubborn, and resistant to changes. But serving as club officer really forced me to come out of my shell to interact with people, really opened the door to my improvement of growing of leadership and communication skills. And the person who did that was my area director, Sharon Chan. And she embodies all the leadership qualities that our leaders already shared. She was caring, she was sunny, she always had a sunny smile, very encouraging, always helping, had empathy. I remember once I gave a speech about growing heirloom tomatoes. It was terrible. But she asked me, Wendy, what if your audience does not like tomatoes? So I really later I learned her points. I really liked the way she asked questions, led me to her points instead of telling me right away. And there were many late nights. She helped me to revise my draft and explaining to me the techniques to write a good speech. So I trusted Sharon. I admire her, for being selfless and excellent. So when she persuaded me to become a vice president of education and promised to support me, I said yes. And that changed everything, opened up new world for me to be a confident leader now. So I learned from Sharon also many other leaders that in a volunteering community, to be effective leader, we must care and also strive for excellence. Back to you, Brad.
Thank you, Wendy, for that. And having a perspective of you being blunt, stubborn, and resistant, that's hard to have that view for me. But thank you, all three of you, for your stories about how women have influenced your life. We have a big last question here and just a minute or two left. So we need some really short answers on this, panelists. So Roselia, Raji, and Nadine. Big question, succinct answer. How do you balance authenticity with the pressures of today's leadership expectations? Roselia.
Thank you, Brad. Being authentic to yourself, at least to me, especially in leadership, is looking at your strengths and your weaknesses and being authentic is what do I need to work on and what can I improve on more? You might be great at one area and you want to build upon that, and you may be absolutely horrible in one area, but maybe it doesn't matter to you. But being authentic in this leadership world is knowing what weaknesses and what strengths you want to keep on building and developing for yourselves. Back to you, Brad.
Thank you, Roselia. Very good. Raji.
Kind of building on what Roselia just mentioned, it's about realizing what is your strength and weakness. And for everything that is not your strength, you can leverage your team's strength in that case. What is your personal weakness as a leader could be your team's strength. And there is no harm in going ahead and seeking that help or support to accomplish the goal in mind, or that your team needs to be accomplished. Get them onto the goal and say, hey, this is your strength. Let's go ahead and do it. I think that is balancing authenticity with leadership. I think according to me, that is smart leadership. Brad, back to you.
Thank you, Raji. And Nadine, close us out on this.
I guess it's on a similar vein, maybe a slightly different perspective. I heard 2 to 3 years ago from my mentor, Nadine, who are you trying to impress? And in this moment, I wasn't expecting this question at all, but I needed it because no one, in fact, that you need to impress. No one that you are doing it for. You're doing it for yourself, whatever you are doing. You have to be true to yourself. You have to honor your values. And that comes up when I think about authenticity and also the pressure of leadership. Stop trying to be someone else, be yourself, and honor your values and believe in you.
Thank you, Nadine, for that. I love the question, who are you trying to impress? A good self-coaching question for all of us. Thank you for sharing that. We are going to move into a Q&A portion of our session today, and we'd love to hear from you. Any questions that you have regarding what you heard today, or new fresh questions for anyone on our panel or all of our panelists. So feel free to jot those into chat, and we'll pick them up and take a few minutes for questions from the audience. And while we're gathering those questions, I'm going to go back to the panel. If one of you just, maybe a few of you just jump in with some short answers. Here's my question, though. I'll say, just generally, what advice would you give to women aspiring to step into a leadership role? Anna, you may have had a different comment, but
No,
let's start with you.
it really falls in line with this. And I think that we need to shift our mind to a mindset of abundance. And that we're, when we step into leadership, it's not that we're taking somebody else's seat at the table. We're just taking a seat at the table to be leaders, and that we can still continue to celebrate everyone else. I mean, that's the whole point of trying to honor women and bring up women on Women's International Day, is to honor the special thing that they bring to the table, and that there's an abundance for everyone to show up to the table and lead. And you're not trying to take somebody else's seat. You're just trying to take a seat so that you can make your contribution. Thanks, Brad.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anna. I'm going to go to a question in chat. How do you balance your time with so many items on your plate? That's a great question. Nadine, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I guess it's a shift in my mindset that I needed to apply. Don't see the items on your plate. You might feel overwhelmed. You might be stressed at times, but you're gonna move on despite it. Don't kind of stop and kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't deal with it. It's too much. Kinesis, right? Staying dynamic, moving slowly but surely, one step at a time. That's my advice, because sometimes you can only manage so much, right? There is no advice on manage your time better, manage your priorities. That's all good advice, but if you have 10 priorities, you can't really make any adjustments here other than kind of putting something off your plate, right? So really staying in this flow and moving on, and despite it, that's what I would give as an advice.
Thanks, Nadine. I love that. Movement is what I heard. Staying in motion, and whether that's our bodies, our mind, or staying in motion, taking care of ourselves. Just keep moving and not getting stuck or tied up in the overwhelm is what I heard. Joy, do you want to add your thoughts?
Yes, I'd like to, two things, just say, I have two daughters, so I believe what I work on myself will be a good model for them. Because I want to give my children not some money left, but really something called intellectual heritage, basically some ability they can take wherever they go. The second thing, I truly believe doing what we're doing now is a great investment in myself, because the reason I can get this professorship at Emory, very much, I believe, because I spend time invest in public speaking and leadership. So I truly believe this is not just you feel you're giving out, because you give back. You give, you take it back a lot from this effort. Back to you, Brad.
Mhm.
Thank you, Joy. And I'm gonna go to Raji and then Anna.
Definitely, Brad, I would agree with what all the panelists have said so far and kind of answer both your question and Doris's question in the same line. Sometimes it's progress over perfection. When an opportunity comes up on your door, especially for leadership, I'll go ahead and answer that first, is we may not be prepared in our heads, but somebody else sees the potential in us. And in that moment, I think we should just take the leap because it is still progress. You may not have perfectly figured out how to be a good leader, how to fit into that position already, but that's the whole point. You go ahead, get into the position, and as you onboard, you figure out what all is needed, and you develop those skills. Short story, I was recently listening to a podcast. Jensen Huang, who's the current CEO and founder of NVIDIA, when he first pitched the business plan of the company to the venture capitalist, he had a failure business plan. He could not present it succinctly. But the person who had recommended him to the venture capitalist was really well respected, and that's why he got the investment into the company, and you now see where the company is. So sometimes you're not prepared, but you can still have a $1 trillion idea in your head, and you have to just jump right in. And the same approach applies to leadership. And I think the same thing applies to our time as well. There'll be some days where we'll do something right. It could be life, our personal, our fitness, Toastmasters work or something. It's just taking it day by day and seeing what can I do best today. Pick one category, stick with it for those 24 hours. Next 24 hours, you pick something else. So it's just about progress and not perfection in whatever opportunities life throws at you, because there's never a better time than today. Back to you, Brad.
Thank you, Raji. I love it. Progress over perfection. Yes. Anna.
So obviously we make a good long list of things that we need to achieve, whether it's at work, personal, Toastmasters, and all the other things that we like to get ourselves involved in. And many times as women, we don't say no. We don't even know the word no. We're just saying yes, 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 I can do it. I can coordinate that party. I can coordinate, I can take on the president's role. So the way to balance that, to Doris's question, is you have to then write everything down and put a priority on it. If it's urgent and important, then those are the things you want to tackle first. And if it's not important and not urgent, then maybe those things can be put down, because the key thing is not spreading yourself so thin that you're doing 10 things mediocre when you can do 5 things and really showcase your excellence. And that's how you're going to balance things. So I think that will then give you a clear picture. And there's things you want to do for yourself that you can add to the list, because there's going to be a downstream benefit to that. And so taking on a leadership role here in Toastmasters is going to enhance and give you the skills that you need for your career. So that's where you need to then put this as a high priority and be able to achieve that. So hopefully that helps. Write down everything you need to do, important, urgent, and then tackle those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for that advice and input. And we are quickly coming to the end of our hour, but we're still going to hear one last comment from all of our panelists. First of all, let's give our panelists user reactions. Let's show them our appreciation for all the wisdom and all the knowledge and the value that we've received today. Thank you to all 6 of you for your contribution today. But we're not done. As we wrap up, please leave us with a final word. What's one action that women can take today to support and lift up each other, or any other short thought that you have as we wrap up? Let's start with, well, Wendy, I saw your hand up. Let's start with Wendy.
Sure. Thank you, Brad. my advice would be short, just do it. You see, I was an impossible leader, and what I turned into. So I think Toastmasters really, like every panelist had iterated that it has low stake, but takes real life challenges to help us to develop real life problem solving skills. And so we have no fear of failure. We can experiment, learn from our mistakes, and grow fast. So the best way to become a leader, to be a leader, is to become a leader is to be one, just like I did. I encourage you all to try.
Thank you, Wendy. Roselia, what are your final thoughts?
My thought, this is a word of advice that was given to me and that I also like to give to everyone is, like Wendy, just do it. Don't worry about perfection. If you wait for perfection, you're going to let things pass you by. You have the knowledge that you need right now to be a leader. And yes, you will improve with time as you have more experience, but just do it. Have what you have, show the world what you have, and you will see that you will not only be a great leader, but you will improve as a leader as time goes by. Don't wait for perfection. Send out what you have right now and share it. Back to you, Brad.
Thank you, Roselia. Oh, Joy, let's hear from you. Last thought.
I hope some of you have considered joining Toastmasters. If not, this is the time, because when Toastmasters say, we are where leaders are made, every word is true. And after testing this theory for 12 years, every word is true. So give it a try.
Thank you, Joy. Anna.
Yes, thank you so much. I walked into the Toastmasters room to work on my public communication and fell in love with the leadership track. And I could not be more grateful. And also, it's just an honor to be among us women here, and you, Brad, to be able to share these ideas. I can tell you that when Nadine and Joy and Roselia get together with Raji, Wendy, and myself, there's a magic energy, and the fact that we're very close to one another geographically as well. And it's an honor to serve, and it's an honor to be able to pour that belief into other people. So if I had to give a piece of advice, be a good cheerleader and believe in others until they start to believe in themselves. And that way everybody gets elevated in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Raji.
Yeah, I would echo all the sentiments that my panelists have previously shared and say, if there is an opportunity to invest in yourself, do it now. There is never enough time to go ahead and do it tomorrow. The time to go ahead and develop yourself is right now, right here. So if you do want to join Toastmasters and that's been a thought on your mind, go ahead, fill that application form today, because today is the day to go ahead and work on yourself.
Thank you, Raji. And Nadine, our final thought for the day.
The final thought, oh my gosh, the pressure's on. No, as you mentioned in the beginning, I really enjoy rock climbing as well. And sometimes I find myself comparing it to leadership. And it's not only about reaching the top, right? When you climb, it's really kind of being together with your partner in this, looking out for the ones that climb alongside you, that are coming after you. And I guess that's an advice that I would like to give. You know, look out who's surrounding you and see how you can help each other.
Thank you, Nadine, for those closing words. And again, thank you to all of our panelists for your amazing wisdom, your words for life, and the impact that you've clearly had on other people in your lives. Thank you for being here today, for honoring women in this world, especially during the special month and upcoming day of honoring women around the world. I was raised by a single mother, so I learned very early who rules the world, and have appreciation, so much appreciation for that. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for attending, and go out and touch some lives. If you're a Toastmaster, check into leadership opportunities. We need leaders. We need women leaders. And if you're not involved with Toastmasters, check it out at toastmasters.org. Most of all, stay connected with each other, keep moving, and have a great day. Thank you for being here. That concludes our presentation.